This woman was in prison for 50 years, okay? The nerve of him to ask her, the last known person to be seen with his son, did you kill my son? The pretenses behind her attempting to clean any part of this crime scene. She had been accused of killing her husband by way of poisoning him.
Yeah, after that I get out, I walk home.
That confession was a joke. I mean, he could have said anything. He could have said anything, and there would have been no proof. Every time we see something like this, where it's like, there's no care or like regard, why would you cover for this man and allow him to leave the scene of the crime and act like he was never there?
Okay, bitch. We both know what you've been brought here for. A lot of fucking and sucking. Your wrists and ankles are chained, and you're gagged because you're not going to like the way I do it. You're going to be kept here, naked and chained down. I'm going to use you for a sex slave. I'm into bondage and S&M. It's kind of hard to find willing partners that goes for that shit. So when I get the urge, I go out, find me some good-looking little bitch that turns me on, kidnap her, and keep her in my playroom for a while for a sex toy. And this time it's your turn.
Hey guys, what's up? It's your girl Kelly, and we're back with another video. If you guys are new to the channel and you enjoy true crime stories, news, and politics, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, guys. I would very much appreciate it. And if you're a returning listener or subscriber, thank you as always for being a friend. And please interact with the video. Give it a like if you like it. Comment down below. Let me know what you think of the topic. And I thank everyone in advance for watching this video. And I do want to just, again, I started it off with a warning, and I'm going to say it again, warn again, that this video in particular is going to be extremely graphic. It's going to get very disturbing, very depraved, and this man was just truly one of the most disgusting and evil individuals that I have come into contact with as far as it goes, researching different crimes and things of that nature. So we're going to get into it. David Parker Ray was born in 1939. He was convicted kidnapper and suspected serial killer. And prior to his criminal activities, he worked as an auto mechanic and lived in New Mexico. He first gained infamy and notoriety for his involvement in the abduction, torture, and the assault of multiple victims in a trailer equipped with a torture chamber. And he referred to this trailer and all the disgusting and despicable actions that he did in said trailer as the toy box. Okay, his play area, his den of sin, Satan's lair, if you will. Quite literally, he had a sign in this trailer called Satan's Den. So, before his criminal activities, he had a history of legal troubles, including convictions for various offenses such as theft, drug-related charges, and parole violations. His criminal record was over several states, and he had a troubled reputation as well as a troubled upbringing. This all really came to a head for David Parker Ray in 1999, and this happened because one of his victims actually ended up escaping, and she was able to overpower the woman that he was living with, and she was able to run all the way to a neighbor's house. So let's listen to a little bit of that 911 call here.
911.
The call came from a panicked local after 21-year-old Cynthia Verheul burst into her house. She was naked except for a metal dog collar attached to a 6-foot chain.
Yes, I'm calling for a young lady that ran into the house. She says she's just been raped. She's got her chain on her and everything. Send someone right away. This lady's naked and everything else. She said they've been holding her for 3 days.
So Cynthia proceeded to then tell the police an absolutely jaw-dropping and astonishing story that would shock even the most seasoned of detectives about David Parker Ray and what was going on at his home and inside of that absolute deplorable trailer at his home in New Mexico. So this would lead to the discovery of all of the materials that were found in the trailer and at David Parker Ray's home, where he lived with a woman and his daughter, who were both not only complicit in all of the crimes of David Parker Ray, but had been guilty and willing participants in the rape, torture, and the murder of many, many different women. This had been going on for years, according to David Parker Ray. And he had gone pretty much unnoticed with the help of these two women and his penchant for abducting sex workers who he felt would not be missed. And to a certain extent, he was right. The bucket in the middle of the floor, this little bed in the living room, was where they would oftentimes keep the women when they didn't have them chained up inside of the trailer, using them as sex slaves. At times they would be chained up in the house and forced to use a bucket as a toilet. And that's where this woman was on the day that she actually ended up escaping. She had been inside of the living room, inside of the main house, sitting there with the girlfriend of David Parker Ray, whose name was Cindy Hindi. And his daughter was Glenda Jean Jessie Ray. But it was only Cindy, the girlfriend of David Parker Ray, and Cynthia, who was their captive, that were home at the time of her escape. She took the chance, the opportunity that was presented itself. Cynthia was playing it cool. She was trying to play her cards right so that she could escape with her life out of this situation. And thank God she did, because she was the one person who would finally be able to put an end to all of David Parker Ray's depraved and disgusting, torturous activities that he had been participating in for years. And it was so out of control that he had enough time to build this sex torture chamber and equip it with all of these different items. And we're going to see some of those in a second here. But I mean, it was truly astonishing to see. It gives you an idea of just how long this had been happening and this had been going on, due to the nature of the trailer itself and how much was in there. I mean, there were posters on the wall. There were endless amounts of different things that were hooked to the wall that were available for the most insidious of activities that somebody could even imagine.
Inside the house, they find where Cynthia had been held in the sunken living room area. They see the bed, they see the pole, there's some chains and manacles there. There's a bucket with her waist on the floor. There was obvious signs of a struggle and disarray in the room. Obviously, what they saw did not look like the area of somebody who had been kept there voluntarily.
You think?
The search team also found a collection of sinister sexual
Gross.
devices.
Oh my God, gross. Oh.
Everything that they were seeing did nothing for them except to add evidence and corroboration to what Cynthia, their victim, was telling them. It wasn't really until the utility trailer was open that we really began to get a good understanding of what we were potentially dealing with.
So you guys can see here from the crime scene video footage that's playing, I mean, how much stuff was inside of this trailer? How many different straps, hooks, wires, things plugged in? There's a doll sitting on the counter. There's different sex toys and other contraptions that were used on these different women. You know, straps for the feet, straps for the hands, things that were used to electroshock these women. There's a TV screen here that's mounted on the wall that David Parker Ray used on these women, where he would film what was happening to them and force them to watch. So as he was assaulting them, as he was torturing them, they would be strapped to a table that was in the middle of this trailer and be made to watch their own sexual assault and their own bodies being absolutely used and abused by this sick, disgusting man, if you can even call him that. I mean, this trailer is the stuff of actual nightmares. This is absolutely terrifying. Look at this. And that's the chair. He had a gynecological chair, okay? How one goes about acquiring a gynecological chair, and if you don't know what that is, it's just like a medical table that you would see in any medical office, but it's equipped with the stirrups that are attached on either end, where if you're a woman, you know what this is. You have to go in and put your feet on the stirrups so that way they can examine you and examine your private parts. And so these women were forced in this position on this table at all times, completely naked. And even whenever he wasn't there, even when they were just by themselves in this trailer, they were strapped down into this position as a form of torture and psychological warfare against them. It's like, this is, I do believe this is one of the most absolutely depraved individuals that ever walked this earth, because how does one even come up with this sort of thing? On the walls taped up there are like different manuals for different torture positions and machines that he used to do certain things to these women. There was like explanations of those that were taped up to the wall, so that way, like, everywhere you look, if you are one of the women who ended up crossing paths with David Parker Ray and found yourself on the receiving end of his disgusting and evil plans, you would be forced to look at all of these different diagrams and these pornographic pictures and torture devices at all times and be strapped to this table. It's, it is beyond sick.
David Parker Ray.
He claimed that the prostitute had agreed to a session of rough bondage.
So he would later go on to say that this woman had not been kidnapped. He was not guilty of anything other than participating in rough sex, that he was not holding her there against her will, and that he had not done anything wrong. He tried to explain that he was simply participating in a little bit of bondage, okay? And obviously, you could see here some of just like, okay, so these are some of the diagrams, and I guess those were there for his inspiration. I'm really not sure what goes into the mind of someone like this, who would have this sort of sick and twisted sexual fetishes in his mind. It's my goodness, this contraption here, you guys can use your imagination. It's disgusting. It's absolutely, beyond comprehension. The lengths that he went to and the devices that he dreamed up to torture these women. It's absolutely insane to me. It was later shown that Ray had actually used soundproofing methods on the trailer, and it was equipped with so many different items that were used for sexual torture, and they would go on to estimate that he had kidnapped between 5 and 6 women a year, holding each of them around 3 to 4 months, depending on the situation and I guess his fleeting little desires that he had. And it was later also shown that he would invite friends over to participate in this torture. We already talked about his girlfriend and his daughter participating in these crimes and luring victims into his trap. His daughter was actually one of the ones who helped him kidnap Cynthia, who would be the downfall of David Parker Ray. And she would do this on a regular basis. She would help her father going out to different bars, meeting women that she perceived to be good targets, and then go on to participate and help him kidnap these women, and sometimes even participate in the sexual torture and the abuse of these different women. So he was not acting alone, and he was actually implicating and involving many different people. Many people knew about this, participated in this, and never said anything about it. Never alerted police, never tried to put an end to his madness. They just went along with it. And I would say it's probably a safe bet that he was dealing in some sort of black market where he would either sell the pornography, the torture pornography from these different women, or he would possibly even sell the women themselves, because there were many different women that were alleged to have been kidnapped by David Parker Ray, and they would be able to prove this by retrieving many different artifacts that would go on to be linked to many different women. Some are still unknown who they belong to, and they never actually found any body. So there were allegations that he had dumped many of his victims in this gigantic lake that he lived near, and they were not actually able to tie any one of these to an actual murder that was committed by him. But many of the women he let go, and many of them are unknown, and many of them are unsolved, are just cold cases where they don't know what happened to these women. They know that at some point they had contact with David Parker Ray, or they were never found, they were never let go on the street like many of his other victims, where he would just basically drug them up and dump them onto the street after he was done torturing and abusing them. And most of the time he was keeping them too drugged up. So that was his way of covering his tracks, or that was his way of basically hiding his identity and hiding in plain sight, was that he would mess with these women, drug them up, keep them in a state of confusion. And it was also said, and I think shown, that he forced these women, some of them, to participate in bestiality with his dog. So, I mean, just let that sink in. So investigators and police are still to this day unsure of just exactly how many people David Parker Ray actually killed, but they estimate that it could be as many as up to 60 individuals. But unfortunately, as previously said, they have not been able to locate any of these victims' remains. There were different things that were found near this lake, which was Elephant Butte Lake in New Mexico, but they were never able to directly tie them to David Parker Ray, and he was always very uncooperative. So as you can see here, I mean, this lake is absolutely massive. It is huge, it is extremely deep, and it's just absolutely massive. They would not be able to find and search this entire lake for remains of any victims, even if they wanted to. It just goes to show you how sick and twisted that this man was. I mean, that he could get away with something like this, that he was able to evade capture and had all of these different accomplices, had all of these different people involved in his crimes and his activities, and still was able to operate for years. It is truly astonishing. There was a diary that David Parker Ray had kept where he detailed what he did to each victim, but it didn't say where he buried bodies. If he did end up killing them, like I said, not every single one of his victims was killed. He did end up letting some of these women go, and I honestly think that some of these women actually were sold into sex slavery or were trafficked to other places. I mean, we'll never know. You never can tell, and people don't just disappear to thin air. And there were many different search attempts to try to locate remains that were known locations where David Parker Ray had either visited for work or for his own personal pleasure, and they were never able to come up with anything. Okay, hold up. So I do just want to pause right here, because this right here, it gives me nightmares to this day. And I'm not even exaggerating when I say this is the most terrifying item that I have ever laid my eyes on. I mean, this is so fear-inducing. This is so absolutely shocking to the senses, because what you're looking at right here is a PVC type of pipe, okay, that is very wide in girth, okay, and it was made with these nails at the bottom, at the base, and about, a quarter or a third of the way up. And this is, if you're an adult, we're hopefully all adults here, this is entirely too big for anybody, okay? For any normal person, this is absolutely insane, the size of this thing. And this was forced upon these women to penetrate them with this object here. And I mean, when I saw this, when I first was made aware of what this was used for, when I tell you, I would have asked to be killed right then and there. I could not imagine being a woman first of all, being kidnapped by a person like David Parker Ray, and second of all, having to be faced with this possibility right here, I would have made you kill me, because this is absolutely sickening, and just, I mean, it really drives the point home, in my opinion, as to how disturbing and how much these women must have had to go through, being forced to be in this situation under the torture and sexual depravity of David Parker Ray. It's absolutely terrifying. That is a box for someone's head, okay? That is a box that he would put around these women's head. I mean, my God. I can't even imagine. Opening up your eyes and seeing this, I mean, just kill me, please. And being held here for months, okay? Months! Disgusting, look at this! So, we're gonna listen to a portion of this video, the one that he used as an introduction, okay, to his sick and twisted house of horrors that he put these women through. And we're going to listen to only a portion of it. But I do want to warn you guys, again, in advance, this is probably the most disgusting thing that you will hear ever in your life. This is probably one of the most disturbing and truly mind-boggling recordings that has ever been made public. And it's a glimpse into the mind of an absolute psychopath. Because whenever he would kidnap these women and get them into position in this toy box, as he would call it, and once they had finally been woken up from whatever drugs he had forced upon them to get them into captivity, he would then have them wake up to this audio recording that he had basically recorded, this rules and regulations, this kind of introduction into what they were going to be facing, what sort of torture and what sort of ordeal that they would be getting into, having been captured by this maniac. And he recorded it because he said that he got tired of having to say and do this introduction over and over again, because that's how many times he had done it, that he got sick of his own shenanigans. So he recorded it as a way to have this orientation style type of introduction into their new hellish reality. So we're going to listen to a portion of this, but I won't play the whole thing because it's long, and I frankly can't handle the whole thing, I don't think. So, again, viewer discretion advised strongly.
Hello there, bitch. Are you comfortable right now? I doubt it. Wrists and ankles chained, gagged, probably blindfolded. You are disoriented and scared too, I would imagine. Perfectly normal under the circumstances. For a little while, at least, you need to get your shit together and listen to this tape. It is very relevant to your situation. I'm going to tell you, in detail, why you have been kidnapped, what's going to happen to you, and how long you'll be here. I don't know the details of your capture, because this tape is being created July 23rd, 1993, as a general advisory tape for future female captives. The information I'm going to give you is based on my experience dealing with captives over a period of several years. If, at a future date, there are any major changes in our procedures, the tape will be upgraded. Now, you are obviously here against your will. Totally helpless. Don't know where you're at. Don't know what's going to happen to you. You're very scared, or very pissed off. I'm sure that you've already tried to get your wrists and ankles loose. No, you can't. Now you're just waiting to see what's going to happen next. You probably think you're going to be raped, and you're fucking sure right about that. Our primary interest is in what you've got between your legs. You'll be raped, thoroughly and repeatedly, in every hole you've got. Because, basically, you've been snatched and brought here for us to train and use as a sex slave. Sound kind of far out? I suppose it is to the uninitiated, but we do it all the time. It's going to take a lot of adjustment on your part, and you're not going to like it a fucking bit. But I don't give a big rat's ass about that. It's not like you're going to have any choice about the matter. You've been taken by force, and you're going to be kept and used by force. What all this amounts to is that you're going to be kept naked and chained up like an animal, to be used and abused anytime we want to, any way that we want to. And you might as well start getting used to it, because you're going to be kept here and used until such time as we get tired of fucking around with you. And we will, eventually, in a month or 2, maybe 3. It's no big deal. My lady friend and I have been keeping sex slaves for years. We both have kinky hang-ups involving rape, dungeon games, etc. We found that it is extremely convenient to keep 1 or 2 female captives available constantly to satisfy our particular needs. We are very selective when we snatch a girl to use for these purposes, because without saying that you have a fine body, and you're probably young, maybe very young, because, for our purposes, we prefer to snatch girls in the early to mid-teens, sexually developed, but still small-bodied, scared shitless, easy to handle, easy to train, and they usually have tight little pussies and assholes. They make perfect slaves. Anytime that we go on a hunting trip, if we can find a little teenager, we usually start hitting the gay bars, look for a well-built, big-titted lesbian. I thoroughly enjoy raping and screwing around with lesbians, and there's not as much danger of them carrying a sexually transmitted disease. And I don't like using condoms. Also, even though they're a little older, unless they've been playing with dildos a lot, they still have tight holes between their legs like the younger girls. If we can't find a lesbian that we want, we snatch anything that is young, clean, and well-built. We very seldom come back empty-handed, because there's plenty of bitches out there to choose from. And with a little practice in deception, most of them is very easy to get with a little risk. At this point, it makes little difference what category you fall into. You're here, and we're going to make the most of it. You're going to be kept in the hidden slave room. It is relatively soundproof, escape-proof, and it is completely stocked with devices and equipment to satisfy our sexual fetishes and deviations. There may or may not be another girl in the room. Occasionally, for variety, we like to keep 2 slaves at the same time. In either case, as the new girl, you'll definitely be getting the most attention for a while. Now, as I said earlier, you're going to be kept like an animal. I guess I've been doing this too long. I've been raping bitches ever since I was old enough to jerk off and tie the little girl's hands behind their back. As far as I'm concerned, you're a pretty piece of meat to be used and exploited. I don't give a flying fuck about your mind or how you feel about this situation. You may be married, have a kid or 2, boyfriend, girlfriend, a job, car payment. Fuck it. I don't give a rat's ass about any of that, and I don't want to hear about it. It's something you're going to have to deal with after you're turned loose. I make it a point never to like a slave, and I fucking sure don't have any respect for you. Here, your status is no more than that of one of the dogs or one of the animals out in the barn. Your only value to us is the fact that you have an attractive, usable body. And, like the rest of our animals, you will be fed and watered, kept in good physical condition, kept reasonably clean and allowed to use the toilet when necessary. In return, you're going to be used hard, especially during the first few days while you're new and fresh. You're going to be kept and chained in a variety of different positions, usually with your legs and knees forced wide apart. Your pussy and asshole is going to get a real workout, especially your asshole because I'm into animal sex. Also, both of those holes are going to be subjected to a lot of use with some rather large dildos, among other things. And it goes without saying, there's going to be a lot of oral sex. On numerous occasions, you're going to be forced to suck cock and eat pussy until your jaws ache and your tongue is sore. You may not like it, but you're fucking sure going to do it. And that's the easy part. Our fetishes and hang-ups include stringent bondage, dungeon games, a little sadism, nothing serious but uncomfortable and sometimes painful. Just a few little hang-ups that we like to use when we're getting off on a bitch. If you're a young teeny bopper and ignorant about fetishes and deviations, you're about to get an enlightening crash course in sex. Who knows? You may like some of it. It happens, occasionally. If we want to take the time and trouble, even under these conditions, most bitches can be brought to orgasm. Now, I've already told you that you're going to be here a month or 2, or maybe 3, if you keep us turned on. If it's up to my lady, we'd keep you indefinitely. She says it's just as much fun and less risky. But, personally, I like variety. A fresh pussy, now and then, to play with. We take 4 or 5 different girls each year, depending on our urges and sometimes accidental encounters. Basically, I guess we're like predators. We're always looking. Occasionally, some sweet little thing will be broke down on the side of the road, walking, bicycling, jogging. Anytime an opportunity like that presents itself, it's not too risky, we'll grab her, even if we've already got a captive in the playroom. Variety is definitely the spice of life. Now, I'm sure that you're a great little piece of ass and you're going to be a lot of fun to play with, but I will get tired of you eventually. If I killed every bitch that we kidnapped, there'd be bodies strung all over the country. And besides, I don't like killing a girl unless it is absolutely necessary. So, I've devised a safe, alternate method of disposal. I had plenty of bitches to practice on over the years, so I've pretty well got it down pat. And I enjoy doing it. I get off on mind games. After we get completely through with you, you're going to be drugged up real heavy with a combination of sodium pentothal and phenobarbital. They are both hypnotic drugs that will make you extremely susceptible to hypnosis, auto-hypnosis, and hypnotic suggestion. You're going to be kept drugged a couple days while I play with your mind. By the time I get through brainwashing you, you're not going to remember a fucking thing about this little adventure. You won't remember this place, us, or what has happened to you. There won't be any DNA evidence because you'll be bathed and both holes between your legs will be thoroughly flushed out. You'll be dressed, sedated, and turned loose on some country road, bruised, sore all over, but nothing that won't heal up in a week or two. The thought of being brainwashed may not be appealing to you, but we've been doing it a long time, and it works. And it's the lesser of two evils. I'm sure that you would prefer that in lieu of being strangled or having your throat cut. Okay, undoubtedly, somebody's going to be looking for you. There may or may not be a missing persons report. But nobody's going to be looking for you here. They don't have any idea where you're at. You don't even know where you're at. We're always very careful about that. There are not going to be any knights in shining armor coming to rescue you. You are strictly on your own, and under the circumstances, I bet that is a scary thought. If there is another girl in the room, she won't be able to help you either, because she's going to be in the same position you're in. As for escaping, I'm sure they'll try to figure out a way. That's human nature, but it's not hardly even worth talking about here. It would not be prudent on our part to have you running around in the woods screaming rape. It would be an embarrassment, to say the least. Consequently, you are going to be kept in an environment that is even more secure than a prison cell. If it has not already been done, very shortly, a steel collar is going to be padlocked around your neck. It has a long, heavy chain that is padlocked to a ring in the floor. The collar will never be removed until you are turned loose. It's a permanent fixture. The hidden playroom, where you're going to be kept, has steel walls, floor and ceiling. It is virtually soundproof and has a steel door with 2 keyed locks. The hinges are welded on, and there are 2 heavy deadbolts on the outside. The room is totally escape-proof, even with tools. Any time that you are left unattended in the room, your wrists will be chained, and there are electronic sensors to let us know if you move around too much. And if that's not enough, there is a closed-circuit TV system with a surveillance camera. It's wired to the main TV in the living room, so we can check you once in a while, or just sit and watch you for the fun of it. Electronics is a wonderful thing. Expensive, but hell, everything in that room is expensive, and damn well worth it. If everybody knew how much fun it was to keep a sex slave, half of the women would be chained up in somebody's basement.
So that just gives you an idea of this man's psyche, okay? I mean, I'm speechless. I could not imagine being in the place of those women, and I truly have so much sympathy for what they had to go through dealing with this monster. He is the worst kind of human being that ever walked the face of this earth. I mean, to say he's evil is an understatement. So this is from the FBI. These are some of the items that were found in the trailer that they were able to then link to certain women. Certain of these items were never able to be linked to anyone, so they are still unknown. And some of these, you know, they released to the public in an attempt to locate these victims. But these were just a few of the things belonging to the victims of David Parker Ray. And this was a good indication of how many actual victims that there were. Each one of these was photographed several times. So some of these are duplicates, but you can see just how many different items. And I believe he took at least one item per victim. So I don't know how many there are here because there are several duplicates of each. But the total is like 400 results. So let's just say, for instance, there's 3 duplicates of each one of these items in this catalog here. That's over 100 different items. So over 100 different victims you would be able to speculate. So do with that what you will. But, I mean, this is just sick and twisted. And I love boys. Like, what in the world? Absolutely sickening. All of these different pendants, these saint pendants that were taken from women, religious young women, crosses. I mean, it's so twisted what he did to these people. I cannot fathom it. These little, some of these look like they belong to children. And in his video, or in his recording, he even said that he liked kids. He liked young kids, which that's another reason why I was led to believe that most of these victims, the ones that they weren't able to identify, or the ones that were never found or never showed back up after disappearing, were probably sold into sex slavery. Here's a bracelet that says Linda. I mean, this is just so tragic. All of these different, a name tag. I just, it's astonishing.
More than 10 years ago, KLB Eyewitness News 4 escorted an exclusive interview with David Parker Ray just a week after he was convicted on rape and kidnapping charges.
I feel raped.
On that day, Ray admitted to us he had been involved with women but denied committing.
He says he feels raped. Do you? Do you? Not raped enough, I don't think.
Any crimes.
She enjoyed it.
Has he ever tortured anyone?
No.
Did he kidnap anyone?
No.
So did Ray ever do anything against the wishes of a sex partner?
No. I get my excitement from making a woman happy. My trailer had numerous sex toys in it of different types, all different fetishes.
Yeah, sure did.
I got pleasure out of the woman getting pleasure. I did what they wanted me to do.
David Parker Ray died in prison in 2002. KLB Eyewitness News 4 will be at Elephant Butte tomorrow as authorities search for evidence of David Parker Ray's victims. If they find anything significant, we'll of course let you know about it.
So he can go straight to hell, which hopefully that's exactly where he's at. And hopefully he's burning very, very badly and has been put through this sort of disgusting, torturous activities that he was so eager to subject other women to in the life that he lived on this earth. So hopefully Satan is in the process of sexually assaulting him with that disgusting homemade dildo with the nails at the end of it. And I hope he's really going to enjoy that. So he's a sick fuck. I mean, I just cannot say what I truly think of this individual, because I will probably get kicked off of YouTube. But he has a special place in the halls of the most evil, sadistic, sick motherfuckers to ever exist. And I mean, he is definitely deserving of every single bit of torture that he's hopefully being subjected to in the pits of hell.
Cynthia Hendy, a convicted accomplice to serial toy box killer David Parker Ray. Ray was convicted of the crimes including murder, rape, and torture in New Mexico in 2000. Hendy now lives in Hamilton after serving 18 years in New Mexico for her involvement. Circulating on social media platforms, Hamilton community members expressed frustration and worry about having Hendy live close to a local school. So I looked into Montana law pertaining to registered sexual and violent offenders. Here is what I found. In Montana, offenders can register as sexual or violent offenders, or both. When registering, there are multiple tiers in which they fall into based on what their sentencing judge assigns them as. So think of it as a scale. Offenders at the bottom of the scale do not have limits on where they can live and who they can interact with, but offenders at the top must follow certain laws with these restrictions. If the crime does not occur in Montana, but the convicted offender moves to the state, Montana law can adopt the level assigned by the sentencing judge. In this case, Hendy is here at the bottom of the scale. Therefore, there is no law prohibiting where she can live.
That is
Ravalli
sick.
County Sheriff Steve Holton confirms to MTN News that Hendy is registered and has been in compliance since her move to Montana. Sheriff Holton says that there are other violent and sexual offenders who live in western Montana, and there are resources out there to look up offenders in your neighborhood. You can find those links at our website. In Missoula, Hannah Hislop, MTN News.
I mean, what kind of shit is that? So what judge assessed her as being a low-level threat to society or a level of not likely to reoffend? I mean, this woman was involved with David Parker Ray. She was the girlfriend, the live-in girlfriend of this psycho for years and participated in raping these women. She got off on it as well. She made them perform sexual acts on her. She is just as sick, if not sicker than he is, as a woman. I mean, just the fact that she only had to do 18 years is absolutely asinine to me. It's beyond my comprehension. And then, so after the arrest of David Parker Ray, there were several more arrests made. Cindy Hendy was one of them. She spent 18 years. We just saw the, the follow-up with Cindy and what she's up to these days. And then his daughter, Jessie Ray, was also arrested, ended up serving about 2.5 years in prison. And then David Parker Ray actually ended up arranging some sort of deal with the prosecution where he made some sort of confession to his crimes in exchange for Jessie's release and then a subsequent probation of 5 years. So she was in prison for 2.5 and then released on probation for 5 for her involvement in the kidnapping, torture, and rape of countless women. So David Parker Ray ended up going to trial. The trial had many different problems and issues that came up. He ended up having to be retried like 2 or 3 times due to a hung jury. And then the second trial had issues where the judge ended up passing away, so they had to redo that trial, and just all kinds of different obstacles that were put into place and kind of delayed the justice of this sicko. But eventually he was brought in and did get convicted of his crimes and was sentenced to a life sentence, basically, without the possibility of parole. But it would basically prove to be poetic justice in a way, because after his sentencing, 8 months into his sentence, he ended up having a heart attack and dying in prison. A miserable death that he deserved, but not miserable enough, because I think that he deserved to sit in prison and be given the same treatment by other big black prisoners as he was subjecting to the women that he perceived to be weak and easily manipulated, as he discussed in his little sicko audio tapes. I typically believe when it comes to murderers like this, that they should be put to death and they shouldn't be on the taxpayer dime for the rest of their lives. They shouldn't be having to pay for individuals who are serial killers. But David Parker Ray, to me, is a special circumstance, and I think that he, of anyone that there is out there, deserved a life of imprisonment and a life of torture and assault of a sexual nature and of a violent nature by other prisoners. If anyone deserved it, he definitely did. But that's not what we got. We got this bittersweet ending to this depraved individual's lives, where he died only serving about 5 years in prison. So, and again, we're looking at this absolutely nightmare fuel of a device that has truly terrified me since laying eyes on it for the first time. So, that is the story of David Parker Ray, guys, and it's quite the story, to say the very least. So, have you guys ever heard of this case? What do y'all think? I know this was a very graphic and hard to stomach and hear of these just unthinkable acts by this man, but If you're still here at the end of this video, please give it a like, guys, and let me know what are your thoughts on this case. And yeah, I just really think that there are other individuals out there who may have the same sexual proclivities or the same sort of psyche as one David Parker Ray. That is terrifying, and that is reason enough to be in constant fear and in constant awareness of your surroundings, and to just stay safe, arm yourself if you're a woman, and stay away from people who you may get a bad feeling about. And most of all, try to stay close to God and try to find the good in the world and avoid people like this at all costs. So what do y'all think, guys? Let me know, please. And subscribe to the channel if you guys want to see more like this. Although there's not many more people and not many more crimes that are come close to this one. But in any case, y'all take it easy out there, and I will see y'all later. Bye.
This woman was in prison for 50 years, okay? The nerve of him to ask her, the last known person to be seen with his son, did you kill my son? The pretenses behind her attempting to clean any part of this crime scene. She had been accused of killing her husband by way of poisoning him.
Yeah, after that I get out, I walk home.
That confession was a joke. I mean, he could have said anything. He could have said anything, and there would have been no proof. Every time we see something like this, where it's like, there's no care or like regard, why would you cover for this man and allow him to leave the scene of the crime and act like he was never there?